It turns out that there have been many studies done showing that there is no discernible difference in comprehension between audiobooks and reading physical books. So then, why does this happen all the time? Hey, what'd you think of that book you read that one time about that one thing? What was that character's name? What was that one takeaway? Oh my god. I don't remember a single fucking thing. After this happened to me a few times, I decided to do a deep dive and figure out why this was happening. After this, I came up with a plan. Think of it like a jigsaw puzzle. Each piece solving a specific problem with audiobooks. When you have the entire puzzle figured out, you will have jaws of life-like memory when it comes to audiobooks. No more wasted time reading than forgetting. Our time is way too precious. Before we get started, if you're new here, I'm Wilson, and I'm on a mission to help people build the habit of reading so that they can find the joy from it that I have found. If that sounds interesting, consider subscribing. Let's start with the first piece. But Wilson, isn't multitasking just doing two things less well? Absolutely right, but audiobooks can be dreadfully boring at times. Just sitting there doing nothing? It invites multitasking and sometimes even sleep. We just need to ensure that we are multitasking in the right way. I'm not saying pull out your phone and start scrolling. Instead, do something that requires muscle memory and not much active attention. Examples being scribbling, doing the dishes, or my favorite, going for a walk or pacing. Particularly pacing I have found to be a game changer. As I work from home, my posture is horrible, so it gives me an extra excuse to get some more steps and stand up. One thing I feel like many people do while listening to audiobooks is driving. Now, driving may fall into the category of being too stimulating, thus you can't focus unless you follow number 2. At the end of every chapter, pause the audiobook and then give it a summary in your own words. Now, if you're driving, this can be out loud or it can be with a pencil and paper. If you want to be super pro, while you're driving, you can use a voice note, whether you're talking into an Apple Watch or just using the voice memos. And if you feel like you're really struggling summarizing it, you have absolutely no idea what just happened, listen to it again. The same thing goes if you ever find a point really fascinating or thought-provoking. Instead of telling yourself, oh, I have to remember this, pause it, record it. If you keep on chugging, these moments will be lost for sure. If you keep on finding yourself getting distracted, drifting in and out of focus, number 3 is for you. This might sound counterintuitive, but sometimes we get bored during audiobooks because they're going too slow. If they are talking like this, try increasing the speed by 0.1, 0.2. You might find that you're leaning in and paying a little more attention as it's having your brain work a little bit harder. Particularly in the slow parts, crank up the speed a little bit, but don't go too far where then you're getting distracted because you can't understand that anyone's saying because you're listening to it at 10 times speed. Now, you could also be bored because of the narrator. In most audiobook apps now, you can change who is narrating the book. Give it a try. Tinker with different people reading to you and you'll find that some of them just pique your attention more than others. And if you can't change the narrator and you're still dreadfully bored, number 4 might help. So about 2 years ago, I was taking a financial planning course. And in it, we had to learn about tax codes. Oh boy. And we had to memorize the specific tax codes and laws that would help us in the future. Now this is really dreadfully boring, like horribly boring, but I was able to convince myself that it was actually fascinating, purely just by lying to myself. What I did was I imagined something that I really love. For instance, I love reading about and learning about cars. So I put myself in the mindset as if I was learning about cars, but then read the tax codes instead. This sounds really stupid, but it actually works. Our brains are pretty dumb and easy to manipulate sometimes. Now, this does take a little bit of practice, but it's a great tool to have in our war chest when we need to drum up a little bit of enthusiasm for something that is boring. Another tool to test in this chest, is music. Typically, when we think about reading, we think about a completely serene and quiet environment. But sometimes having a little music in the background can stimulate you in just the right way. Experiment with this. Try different types of music. Personally, I find any music with lyrics will completely throw me off, as I'll end up just listening to the lyrics and completely disregarding what else I'm hearing. But some good old lo-fi beats to study to, or classical music, I find allows me to read for much longer periods of time. Now my retention might be decreased just slightly, but if I'm able to chug on and keep reading much longer, I feel like that's a net positive. And if music just doesn't work for you, try some good old real silence. Put on some earmuffs. Put on noise canceling headphones with nothing going on. Maybe this could be the secret sauce. No, headphones, what the fuck? Wait, hold on. You can't put on headphones and you can't hear the audiobook. That was a dumb idea. Maybe putting headphones over your earbuds. I don't know. Experiment with music and silence. In the environment, for instance, try listening to an audiobook outside. I personally find that I'm able to remember much more from an audiobook if I'm outside than if I'm listening to it inside. Maybe there's some science behind that. Lastly, the most overpowered audiobook hack there is out there. The main problem with audiobooks is that they don't give your eyes anything to do. So what if we read along to an audiobook while we were listening to it? Now this can be a little tedious to set up, but oh my god, is it a game changer. Once I started doing this, I felt like I could double my reading speed while also double my retention. Now as soon as I figured this out, I went down a long rabbit hole and eventually found Speechify. Now this is not sponsored, but truly one of the best applications that I have found in the past 3 or 4 years. This service allows you to upload PDFs of books and then it will turn them into an audiobook that also has a spacer that you can read along with. Now the best part is, if you happen to stumble upon one of these websites, you can get your PDFs for free. Then if that's not good enough, it also has a feature where it automatically increases the speed that you're reading over time. After a few years of using it, I've been able to increase my speed to 4 times speed at certain times with no loss of retention. This allows the time investment for my reading to be so minimal that I can read really widely now. Instead of an audiobook being a 10-hour commitment, now it's a 2-hour and some odd minutes. I'm not good at math commitment. Absolute game changer. It is a little expensive, but if you have the bread, give it a try. Lastly, if nothing else works, just listen to the whole book over again. I think there's a saying, if a book is worth reading once, it's worth reading twice. You'll always end up getting more insights and details on the second go through. Similarly too, when we listen to music, sometimes on the 10th listen, you'll pick up a lyric that you never even noticed before. Same thing with reading. Give it a couple tries. Now, if you're trying to develop a habit of reading, check out this video that I made, which breaks down how I would go about building a love for reading if I had to start over from scratch. Thanks for watching. Beep.